I didn't realize that the person I married was actually going to be my biggest nightmare. I was changing my 4-year-old daughter. I noticed that when I changed her, she was red and very sensitive. Immediately, my first thought was, did someone touch her? Oh God. I asked her, I said, baby, did somebody touch you? And she ended up saying it was Daddy. I felt like my world ended on that day. When I got to the hospital, they basically told me that he had actually been touching both of my daughters, who are only 2 and 4 years old.
Welcome to Hardly Initiated. It is your host, Tyshawn Jackson, in here with my co-host, Ryan Ketchens.
Yeah, man, excited for a very powerful episode. Usually we really go all out when it comes to the testimonies, and we get so many messages and DMs and emails of how people's lives are literally changed just from hearing somebody else's story.
And this is going to be no different. You guys are familiar with this sister because we've saw her all over our timelines. We've saw her all over our YouTube algorithms. It's probably been somewhere in your group chats. And everybody has formed their own opinion of the situation. So we had to reach out personally to Isis so she can come to Hardly Initiated and tell her own story. So without further ado, I want to welcome my sister here, Isis Morales. Welcome to Hardly Initiated. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
How you feeling right now, Isis?
That was a lot watching the video again because I haven't watched it again since I first uploaded it. So
you haven't watched the video since you uploaded it?
I can't because it's like reliving the experience over again.
Yeah, no,
You know how that is when we watching back our old content. Some of it can be hard to watch, so I can only imagine.
I get it. I'm happy that you had the courage to come up here today and really speak with us and speak with anybody. I know there's currently a pending case.
Yeah.
Happening.
Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. There's a pending case currently happening. Open with the conversation what happened. So obviously we're gonna do our best to get as much information as possible. So again, thank you for being here. We're going to get into the conversation shortly. Thank you for all the initiates that were patient in the chat. I had to get my girl Isis straight and make sure she was ready for the show here.
Right.
If you're ready, put a "we ready" in the chat. All right. Because we are excited to have this conversation here tonight. All right.
Yeah, highly anticipated. I told you before the show, my mom's been keeping up with the story. So she not on YouTube. She's not keeping up with stuff. So
when you said that, it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I didn't expect it to have this impact at all.
I mean, it's impacted
sure.
people of all shapes, sizes, generations, and genders.
Over probably 2.5 million views in just a few weeks. I don't think anybody would have expected, the video to have that kind of impact. But we're going to go into some of that today here, which I'm very excited about, Isis. The first thing I want to do before is talk about our episode sponsor here, because our episode sponsor, the Fight the Flesh bracelet. I want everybody to rock, especially if you're my initiates. Go ahead, copy a nice gold-plated Fight the Flesh bracelet. It is going to be, and we give you a special discount live for 10% off. Yeah. It's going to be in the description. Another piece of your armor.
Fight the Flesh is the mantra, guys. And this is the thing. We need a daily reminder to continue to remind us of all the things that we are fighting daily. And a lot of times you can have a list of all the things you got to overcome. And many times the main thing is yourself. So if you are on your own list, I know I am, then you absolutely need to get one of these. And my favorite thing is when we run into people that's wearing them and rocking them religiously. I just love that.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I need one for my sons.
You know what?
We're going to send the whole family. We'll send the whole family one.
We sending the Fight the Flesh bracelets over to you, Isis. So we got you. And guys, for those of you who want to get active in the show, Super Chats is how you do so. Any Super Chat over 20, we'll read it on the show. I ask that you guys be respectful. This is a very different kind of episode here, and we're going to make it through. We even have a surprise. I think my sister, Dr. Spirit, is going to get on a little bit later. Yep. All right, we started late, so hopefully she still can come on here. But we're going to also have that addition to the show, and we'll open up the hotlines as well. But without further ado, over to you, Isis. You know, but before we get into the story that most people are familiar with, I think it's very important to start from the beginning. Because you have a story that most of us don't know of. Obviously, we saw you on YouTube. You had a YouTube channel where you was coaching young women to help them in their relationships so they can attract a very specific kind of man. But prior to that, there's a whole story we don't know. Mm-hmm. So if you can take us back to growing up, okay. Right? Growing up at home, what did your home look like in your early childhood growing up?
Due to the dynamics of surrounding my birth, which I already talked about, I grew up with a single mom, and my mom did everything possible to provide for me and my little sister. And I think the hard part about being a single mom is that when you're trying to do everything, sometimes it's hard to show up for your children. And I know my mom has always done the best she could, and she's always given us a good life, and she's always protected me. She's always protected me. And I couldn't really ask for more. But I knew that when I had a family, or when I wanted to have a family, that I wanted to be able to be there for my children, whether that looked like working from home or being married. I always wanted to be able to be there for my children, just so that I knew that they were safe. Because when I was a child, because my mom was working,
take your time.
It left the door open. A neighbor's wife was supposed to be watching me after school, and her husband was taking advantage. And I was only 8 years old at this time.
Wow.
And I didn't tell my mother for a while because it was just confusing, and I was scared, and I thought I would get in trouble. Oh my goodness.
Take your time.
So just to summarize that, I want to make sure I understand. Was it a single family home growing up? Your
yes.
mom, she was obviously hardworking woman that had
yes,
to provide for the
very
family.
Much so.
All by
and
herself.
In school, always has a PhD, all the above. All the above. My mom has really strived. Every woman in my family, even my grandmother, it started with her. I mean, she owns a business, a very successful woman. There's multiple entrepreneurs in my family, so we've always just been, just go get it, make it happen. And I've always been that way. Before meeting my husband, I always worked, provided for my children. I never got child support for my 2 boys. I took care of them. I luckily was able to secure a job with a family business, so I was able to work from home. But it's what I had prayed for when I was pregnant with my second son, because his father got incarcerated when I was 6 months pregnant. And I didn't know what I was going to do, because it was just going to be me. And he didn't get out until my son was about 9 months old. But I had to figure it out. And thank you to my aunt and uncle for giving me that opportunity to be able to be home with my children and provide for them. And we had a nice apartment, and, we had all the good things. I had my own car. I had all my own stuff. But I remember it was one Christmas when it was just us, and I said, you know what? I would like to be married. And I had never said that before. I never wanted to be married, just because, I haven't really seen a lot of successful marriages in my life. So when, I'm sorry, I'm talking too far away. But when I had that Christmas, it dawned on me that, maybe I should really put myself out there and try to find a good man for these kids. And, I had 2 boys, and I feel like they needed a good fatherly example because they didn't have it.
Now, we definitely want to dig into that as well. And I want to go back, because I don't want to just breeze past this incident that happened at 8 years old.
Yeah.
Now, you get assaulted by a neighbor's
Yes.
husband.
Yes.
And where's your father at this point? He's just...
My biological father is much older than my mother. He took advantage of her when she was a young girl in high school. I think I remember my mom saying she was in labor trying to take her SATs.
Wow.
And she was the pregnant girl in high school, and it's unfortunate that he preyed on her like that, but there's so many men like this out there, and people just don't talk about it.
And so the situation is your mother coming from an abusive relationship. Now she has you. You're 8 years old. You go through this traumatic experience with the spouse of a neighbor.
Yeah.
And let's fast forward a bit, because if I'm not mistaken, you had your first child at 17.
Yes.
So before having this child, what did sex look like to you at this point? Like when was your first sexual experience and kind of getting active?
Probably when I was about 13. I lost my virginity to a 17-year-old boy.
Wow.
In high school, and I was always told just don't have sex growing up. I don't know if that's what a lot of people in our community say.
They hear that a lot, I'm
just
sure.
don't do it. It's not really openly discussed about why and what can happen, and even personal experiences that may sway a young girl away from making certain decisions. But I have learned, and I really wanted to be able to speak to young moms when I created my platform, because if I would have done it over again, granted I love my children, but if I can speak to a young woman and say, like, don't have kids before marriage if you can help it, it's going to be a little bit easier. Just trying to be real and open and honest. I was a single mom, and this is what happened, and I found what I thought was a good husband, seemed like a good husband, but turned out to be just a monster.
I want to ask this because do you feel like that experience that happened at 8, obviously you had your first sexual experience at 13, intentionally,
Yeah.
It sounds like, did that experience at 8 years old, do you feel like that influenced that experience at 13? Did it hypersexualize you in a way?
I'm sure it's all connected. Because I believe that women who are basically taught from a young age that their value is in what's between their legs start to internalize that. And it's unfortunate.
And I could imagine a ton of confusion going on at that time. And now you're 17 and you involved with a young man. And if I'm not mistaken, you stated this before, that you intentionally had a child.
Yeah.
So when you say at 17 you intentionally decided to move forward with bearing a child, what exactly does that mean, and what was your mindset?
We as a couple, we kind of had this whirlwind romance. I actually met him here in Atlanta. So, on a train coming from Alexandria to Atlanta, and everything clicked, and he said, will you give me a son? And I said yes. Wow. And I was pregnant almost immediately, and I love my son.
How long did you did you guys have a relationship at that point?
Oh my gosh, it was probably like a few weeks. It wasn't long. It wasn't long at all. And I still consider him a friend to this day. Like, wow. He's still a good friend.
And how old was he?
He was a few years older than me.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. And that was your first child?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And just to confirm, before you met your now husband, how many children did you have?
2.
Okay. So when did you have your second child?
I had my second child with someone I knew from high school. I had known him. He went to a different high school from me, but I forget how we met. I think at the library we met. And my mom liked him. He was nice. And I actually ended up moving back home after things didn't work out with my oldest son's father. And I actually saw him when we were working somewhere together. I had gotten a new job, and he happened to be working there too. And it was just like, oh my gosh, hey, and, we started a relationship, and my son came about, and Yeah.
So at this point, you, I'm assuming 1920, you got 2 children. And from my understanding, your sister now,
well, I would say, no, I was like 21 when I got pregnant, or around the time. I
Gotcha.
remember when I turned 21, I think I was pregnant. I couldn't even drink on my 21st
Wow.
birthday because I was pregnant with my second son.
And what is your mother at this point communicating to you about men?
My mother has always told me that you need to be very careful about men in general, and I don't want to paint every man in a bad light, but there can be a predatory side that some men do not control and do not want to control, and that's the dangerous part.
And where was your father at this point in time in your life?
Nowhere around. I mean, he, I believe, threatened my mother that if she tried to even get child support from her, that he would end her and her family members.
Wow.
So he was nowhere.
Okay, so you now at the point, you got 2 young boys, and are you at this point, after your second pregnancy, are you considering dating? Are you having conversations? Kind of what direction you want to take your life? What's happening?
After things didn't work out with my second son's father, and it was that Christmas that I told you where I was like, I really need to create a family for my children. Gotcha. And, just do things the right way. And I knew I wanted more children. I love my babies. I think I'll have another one in 10 years, maybe. But right now, that's just not on my mind at all. I have 5 beautiful babies, and I'm so grateful for each and every one of them, and they're my reason and my purpose. But I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No, you fine. I just wanted to get an idea of what kind of inspired you to get back into the dating market, which it sounds like you wanting to start a family.
It was that.
Start fresh.
It was that. Just wanting to find a good man that I could respect because of the type of women that were in my family, very high achievers, and just really everyone in my family has been a very high achiever, that I had a certain expectation of what a husband should look like. And also, finding certain content. I don't know if I should even talk about any of that.
Well, but I think you should, because all of that influences how you think and particularly how you go about dating.
Okay.
And, right now it is still very much so a gender war. Both men and women are confused about how to date and how to make decisions. Yeah. And I think everything and anything that influenced you at that time is important to share.
Well, I had shared this before, that I stumbled across a very important content creator that I think everyone knows as the hypergamous queen. Her videos are shared, sprinkle videos everywhere.
I just learned about the sprinkle. I didn't know about it.
A lot of people are new to this, but I was true to it because I was following before there was 100,000 subscribers, like me and my sisters, and
that's Shira 7. Correct?
Shira 7, yes.
And I recently checked out her page. Thousands and thousands of views, and she's been doing it for a very long time.
For sure.
Yes. So I was telling every woman that I met in person, like, there's a content creator that makes really good content just about, really, it seemed like how women could take their power back is how it felt. That's how it felt at the time.
Yeah. So that when you went from a place of not wanting marriage at all. Mm-hmm. And then you started to want marriage. Was she a part of the reason?
I believe that, you know what? Probably. And I hate to say that, but probably it just seemed more secure for a family. It just seemed right. It just seemed more stable, like we would be on a solid foundation. And I prayed to God about it because, you can subscribe to certain things that people talk about, but you don't have to subscribe to everything that they talk about. And I've always had a relationship with God, and Jesus is the one true Lord. And I prayed about it and asked God to send me the right man. It wasn't just about what he had. It was never about what he had, because if it was about that, I had a lot of other options with more. And it was really about how he treated my children, because he seemed to love my boys. And he said, oh, those are my boys. You know, you remind me of my mom. She was a single mom with 2 boys. And I would just love to help you and be there for you and be the man you guys need. Oh my gosh.
So you know what? I want to, before we actually get deep into, you know, this situation that took place with your husband, I think it's important to, you know, talk about the impact. I'm actually happy you shared that, because, you know, we had that we had a debate just the other night where that was a part of the conversation, because who you watch and learn from, that's discipleship. That's mentorship.
Oh my goodness.
That's who you are, you know, in submission to.
Yes.
Under their leadership.
You know what? That's so true.
You know, the thing about it is, now when you're discipling under somebody to make the most important decision in your life, this is how I choose my partner. That's the biggest decision we make. They have a lot of influence on our future and the future of our children. What do you think was the biggest takeaway from that content creator in particular that impacted you? What was the biggest takeaway, or what empowered you from her in particular, that made you feel that safety and security? Like, what was it, a particular lesson or principle that was given to you?
I think that a lot of times, like I stated before, that women are taught that their value is in what's between their legs. And she was the first person that said that it was true. And you don't have to give it away to just anybody. A man should be worth your time. He should be, you know, taking you out. He should be investing in you. He should be making your life easier if he cares about you. And that's what I took away from it.
I think that makes sense.
You know, I want to ask you this because, you know, right now, hindsight, you know, with where you are today, do you feel like that was the healthiest content to digest, or do you have any regrets in really watching that content to help guide your decision making?
So funny thing about me is I don't have regrets. I believe that God is working in perfect order, in perfect timing, and there's nothing that happens that he has not approved or seen. And unfortunately, our family, not just our family, but our family in public have, especially my daughters, have had to be sacrificial lambs in the result of what has happened. And yeah.
So now let's talk to me about meeting your husband now, because I can imagine after you watch this content, you know, it's probably preparing you for the suitors that come into your life, how to vet them, how to manage them. Was he one of the early suitors?
Yes.
Was he the first one, or were there a few guys before him?
He was one of the first few, and he pursued me heavily, which I liked. I think that women like a man that pursues and says that, you know, I want you. And
you initially met him online?
Yes, online. I'm sorry. Okay. We met online. I don't want to throw the website out there, but if people have been watching, then they know. You know, I don't want to make the website a bad place. That's not what it's about. But we did meet online, yes.
I get it. And you meet online. You set up a date.
Yeah.
Okay. And first date goes well.
The first date went amazing. He felt like my husband.
What about, you know, the experience with him made you feel so comfortable?
I don't know. I don't know what it was. I just felt safe. I felt like he was my husband. I can't describe it. And he, even on our first date, he said, so what do you think about if we got married in 2 months? And I said, I don't know, maybe. And he spit out his water because he started choking, like he couldn't believe I said, oh, maybe.
Wow.
But it felt so natural and so right. Yeah.
How old were you at this time, by the way?
I was 23 or
Oh, wow.
24 or something like that.
And what was his age?
45, 43, 45, something like that. I don't know.
Okay.
So he's around 20 or so years older.
Yes, he's 20 years older.
Got it.
Now, being a young woman at that time, 23, did you have any reservations about his age, or was that a concern at all, or was
it a
that
plus?
just a typical right? Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't get introduced to dating older men until I started watching Share 7. She just basically said, I mean, they
They got money.
yeah, exactly. They can be a better man to you. They can provide for you in the way that you would like, and your kids, and so I was like, okay. And it was a bit odd at first because I didn't initially jump right into online dating. I just, men would try to talk to me at the grocery store, and normally I just wouldn't even pay attention to older men. But I just started to be a little bit more approachable, I guess, to men of an older age. And I ended up meeting the first older man that I dated. And it was a little bit odd at first because I just wasn't used to dating an older man. But because he treated me well, it became easy. You feel like a princess,
I'm curious to, you said I started doing things to make myself more approachable to older men. Like things like what? What makes you more approachable to an older guy?
Just like smile more, or, you can make a little more eye contact, where normally if you don't go for a certain type, you're probably not even going to turn your head. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You're not even going to look in their face. But, I was like, let me keep my options open. I always was attracted to men of color, so I typically stay in that range. But I was like, let me see about dating someone a little bit older. And after I did, I was like, oh, I could do this. It's not too bad.
That's very, very honest of you, and that makes a lot of sense. And I want to ask, the online aspect of it, was that also a part of the strategy, so to speak, to be able to identify men that might be a little bit older?
It wasn't at first.
Okay.
Actually, one of my older sisters said, why don't you just try online dating? She was like, it's not too bad. And I never had online dated, like not made any type of profile.
Right.
Because I was like, I don't want people that know me to see me on here, and it's kind of embarrassing. And, that's just was my thought process at the time. But then she was like, no, and my oldest sister, she's gorgeous, so it's not like she doesn't have in-person options. But she was like, just try it. And so I tried it, did a paid dating app because I feel like it would be a little bit more, smaller pool of better people. Yeah, exactly. And, I was able to meet, some good guys.
So how long after that first date, did you, because obviously he threw 2 months out. What happened after that first date? Did you guys continue exclusively dating?
Not really. I mean, we kind of dealt with each other, like talked, but I kind of was just talking to people. Like I kept my options open and just was letting people get to know me and taking things slow, not really rushing anything and not trying to get into a relationship at all. And I found that honestly, when I started dating older men, they wanted to rush into a relationship like immediately. On the first date, they were like, I want you to be my woman. And I'm like, no, I don't even know you. And that's kind of just how I would, we need to get to know each other over a bit of time. And it turned out to be 6 months, not 2 months.
I think that is very interesting because, and initially when you told me about the things that, your husband at the time was or the guy you was dating at the time, the things that he was saying, I thought, well, that's, kind of strange for him to be saying those types of things. But based on your experience, you're saying that the older men, this was regular conversation.
Yes, they wanted to take me off the market right away.
Wow.
Right away.
Okay. So at this point, 6 months goes down the line. And what is the transition from you now taking him serious? What did you see? Because I know when it comes to the assessment of, deciding to be a husband, a lot of, what the noise is that it was solely a financial decision that was
No.
made. What's the truth behind the decision? What did you see in him to actually make him your husband?
He was so good with my boys. He was so good with them. Even my oldest son responded to him in a way that he didn't respond to with my ex. And I paid attention to those little things because I would gladly leave a man if he didn't mesh well with my kids. And I had did that with the man that I was in a more serious relationship with right before we got married, because I had started, like, that was the man that we started looking at rings, and the relationship was, moving forward, and I had moved in.
There was another gentleman
Yeah.
that you met, and I believe you said that you got caught in the girlfriend stage.
Yeah.
So could you detail what that relationship, how did you meet that guy, how did things kind of get started, and what exactly was the girlfriend stage?
We met online, and he just was, very consistent. He just wanted to do anything to make my life easier. What can I do for you? What do you need? Very nice, and perfect gentleman. But he was nice to my children. All of the men were nice to my children. Like, if I met, there's probably 3 men that met my children. All of them were nice. But with him in particular, because we started to live together and, it was a little bit more of an intimate setting, I feel like him and my oldest son clashed a little bit, because my oldest son, I kind of always let him be the little man of the house in a way. And he's very, very smart and highly intelligent child. And he, is not just going to let any man come in and think that he's the boss right away. So there was an issue, and he said something about, can your son, stay with a relative for a little bit?
Wow.
And I said, oh, you mean can we go stay somewhere? That's what you mean. And I packed my stuff right away. My sister came and got me and all my stuff. And because it took 2 cars, I had my car, and she came with her car to get my stuff. And he brought my TV and stuff, like all the bigger things he brought. I asked him to bring it back the next day. But I left and I went back to my apartment, which I had to be out of soon. And I didn't plan to need to, do anything else, because I thought the relationship was moving forward. I was his girlfriend, but, he was taking very good care of me, and he seemed like a good guy. But when he said that about my son, I said, no, it's all of us. It's all of us. So I left him. And I remember that night I was in the shower and I prayed and I said, God, I just want someone that's going to love me and my children. That's what I want.
Now, I want to make sure that the audience is following us, because we pretty much, I want to make sure we don't move too fast. But you have your second child, you 21, 22.
Yeah.
Some additional time elapsed. Now you're 23 and you're on the dating market, doing a bit of online dating when you initially meet your current husband.
Yes.
But things progress a bit, but not too much to where you still keep your options open.
The other guy was just more consistent. He was always there. He was always, what do you need? So he just was prioritized.
Understood. Now, this gentleman that you're dating, you decide at some point you want to move in with him.
Yes.
And what was the living situation? Is it he's already has a place where he occupies, and then you and your 2 boys move in? Okay, got you. And how long were you dating before the relationship ends?
I mean, we were moving pretty quickly. They were moving pretty quickly. I can't quantify a time. I can't remember exactly, but things moved pretty quickly. But he seemed like a good man, and I worked from home. So I always was able to keep an eye on my children. That was part of it. I was never leaving them with him. And no, I don't care if I have boys. I know people are crazy.
That makes sense. And in hindsight, with you and the boys moving in with this gentleman, is that something that you think the typical single mother just has to kind of, be concerned with in terms of moving their children in with, somebody that they're getting to know? Does marriage and commitment, or what level of commitment should be taking place before a woman does something like that?
Back then, if you would have asked me that, I would have said, you know, if a man's going to take care of you and your kids and that's a good man, take it. But now, it's hard to even have the words. You have to be so careful. So careful. Because men are not just doing this to stepchildren, they're doing this to their own children too. And that's something that's just very scary and incomprehensible, to be honest.
I understand.
So now this situation that happens, because now you're back in your apartment. You didn't expect to be here.
Yeah.
And it sounds like now we got some financial issues taking place.
Yeah.
And so what's the solution at this point?
It was crazy because when I prayed that night, he called me the next morning, and it was random. Like, I hadn't talked to him in a few weeks, and, you know, he would check in every time, but he just wasn't a priority. But he said, hey, how you doing? And I said, you know, just getting out of a relationship, and, you know, it didn't work out. Him and my oldest son didn't mesh well. And he said, well, you know, I love your boys. You know, they're good boys. I mean, they're, and the way my sons responded to him when the 2 times that they had met him was very good. Was very good. And he seemed like a good guy. I mean, his parents own their own church, and he seemed to have all the values and all the right things and said all the right things. And I was like, you know, this is the only man that I feel like I've really been able to connect with God with. And that was something that was really powerful to me, because I feel like that was missing in, you know, any other relationships that I entertained. Is I didn't feel like we had a strong faith bond. And, you know, when you meet certain people and you just know that you can just talk about the Lord. It's okay just to talk about the Lord and how good God is, and just, you know. And I had that with him. And that was definitely a part of the choosing. I prayed and I said, God, please give me a sign if this is right. And I feel like God gave me all the green lights. I feel like he did. And I still feel like he did. And I just didn't know that God wanted to use us. But that's just what ended up happening.
Do you feel like what he told you, or that love that he said he had, do you feel like that was genuine love, or was that predatory?
I'm unsure, because he didn't touch my boys. He did not. He did not. They've been interviewed. I asked them as soon as my daughter told me, and I always asked them, even before my daughter said that, because he's not their father. And I'll never trust a man 100% with my kids. I was always looking at him, even him changing our daughter's diapers. He would even say, oh, you know, I don't feel comfortable changing them because they're girls. Why don't you change them? Played the role so perfectly. He knew everything to say. But I almost wonder, did he want children? Because he really wanted children. That was a condition of our marriage. It was a condition.
What do you mean a condition? That's something like he wrote it down, or he
No,
told?
that's what he said. He said, you know, when we started talking about the marriage, and he said, you know, I just really want to have kids. You know, I haven't had any kids yet, and he's an older man. And I thought it was odd that he hadn't had any kids yet. But he said, you know, God just hasn't blessed me with kids yet, and I really, you know, want to have kids of my own. And I said, I'm willing to do that. I mean, if you're my husband, okay. And I wonder, was he trying to, did he have intentions? Because someone close to me said that sometimes predators like to grow their own prey. And that's a really sad thing. But there's stories of it.
Now, I want to go back just a bit, because you have just moved out with your 2 sons back into your apartment, and now you're entertaining conversation, potentially dating again with your husband. How long after you moved into your apartment do you accept his invitation to now move in?
Within days.
Okay.
Within days. I mean, it was, I think that first conversation, like one of the first few conversations he was like, well, I told him what I was going through.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I just need a place to stay for a little bit just to figure it out. And he said, well, if you come here, you're going to be my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And that was sexy to me. I was like,
Because
okay.
And I can imagine that, because you in emotional turmoil at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Finances is just tricky just because you running into a bunch of unexpected things.
And he seemed like a good guy.
Yeah.
He did. If I thought he was a crazy man, I would have never entertained the idea.
How old were your boys at the time?
5 and 2.
5 and 2.
Yeah.
The 5-year-old, and see, I know it had to be a lot for the young boys too, because they just were introduced to this other brother here.
Yeah.
And now they got to see this new guy. What did the 5-year? Did he express any concern or he just kind of going with the flow? 5 years old.
Honestly, we got married a week after that we started talking about the marriage, and at the wedding he said, "Can I call you Dad now?"
Wow.
And he said, "Oh my gosh, yes, that means so much to me."
And was his own father in his life?
Not like that.
Not really.
Not like that.
I get it. So he was excited to actually have somebody
A
he can
family.
call dad and a family.
I thought it was one of the happiest days of our lives.
Wow.
And that span from the time you moved in to the time you guys got married, how long was that?
From the time we got married and moved in?
Well, from the time you moved into his place.
I
to the
didn't
time
live
that-
with him before we got married.
Oh, wow. So
No.
better question. From the time from that phone call you guys had to
Mhm.
marriage, how long was that?
1 week. It was a week. It was a week, and I didn't live there until the day after. I remember moving my stuff in the day before we were getting married, and I didn't sleep there. I went to the hotel that he booked for me and my sisters, a very nice suite. We had a beautiful wedding reception. I mean, he threw it together so quick. He was just like, "Here, just do what you want to do." And it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Do you feel like if you had enough money in your bank account to comfortably pay rent and other things, would you have made that decision?
Probably, yes.
Okay.
Probably, yes.
Because I know sometimes, when money's tight, that has a lot. Finances just have a lot to do with our decisions.
But I was making good money, and that's why I said I only needed like a little bit of time to stay. Even if I was to stay with a family member, I mean, it just would have been a little bit because I was making good money working for my family.
Got it.
So I knew I would have been able to find something. I just hadn't had to plan to move so quickly.
Yeah.
And I moved my stuff in, went to the hotel, and the day after we got married, we went home.
Wow.
Started our lives.
And at that point, when you agreed to the marriage, if you could, give it on a scale to 1 to 10, how eager and excited were you to get married, and not to just get married to this particular gentleman, but just get married in general?
I was over the moon. I thought it was my fairy tale. It seemed almost too good to be true. I just kept praising God, how good God was. That this happened for me and my children, and we were finally a family, I thought.
And at this time, when you decide to make the decision and you go about, informing your family, how did they receive that information?
They were shocked.
Mm-hmm.
I actually made my husband come ask my ex. I made him come ask my mother for my hand.
Wow.
That was a requirement for me to marry him to me.
Mm.
And he did so, and he was very respectful and just said, "I'll take wonderful care of your daughter. She'll never have to worry. And her sons, they're mine now."
Wow.
And he said all the right things. And my family was there when we got married. I mean, I think they were like a little hesitant because of how quickly. But he seemed like he really loved me and my sons.
Was that the first time that you've ever had a man to not only profess his love for you, but to also profess his love for your 2 boys at that time?
I would say that men always would try to be nice and, just because, but I felt like they wanted me. I'm going to be nice because I want her, not because it was genuine. I could tell he really wanted to be a dad.
Wow.
He really wanted to be a dad. And it just showed. And everyone was so excited. He bought them all new toys. Picked out what beds do you want for them? Do you want to do their room? Whatever you want.
Also, he was very serious about getting everything set up.
That man at action. That is something women respect.
When was the point that you started seeing some signs that things might not have been right with him?
Honestly, early on. Not even a month, some girl, his ex, was showing up at the doorstep. And she was like, well, he was supposed to be with me because we got married so fast. So,
wow.
I guess she was maybe hanging around, or I don't know. And she looked very, very, very young. But she was of legal age. I think she was 21, a few years younger than me. But she looked like a child.
Wow. So that was pretty much his type for the most part.
I told him, how can you be attracted to her? Because she doesn't have a body or anything. She looks so young. And he was just like, he wouldn't really say much. But I'm like, well, I guess she is an adult. It's not illegal. I guess it's not weird. But to me, it's odd. Age? Well, she told me how old she was. She just came. We talked for a little bit, and it was,
She shows up at the house.
He wasn't there. She was sitting on the step when I pulled up at home.
That was the first red flag. Okay. And then did it get progressively worse, or did it get better after that?
He was very controlling very early on. I remember actually the day we got married, I started seeing how insecure he was. He always thought I was looking at other men, like just imagining it seemed. Or maybe not even imagining it, maybe just trying to scare me into not ever thinking about doing it. I don't know.
And this is a man who has already expressed that he wants to grow a family. He wants to have children outside of the 2 young boys you already have.
Yes.
How would you describe your sexual relationship?
With him?
Correct.
Vanilla, normal. Seemed like a normal guy. He wasn't.
So nothing.
No, he just, I never would think that this man would do this stuff. He hid it so well. Even, if I saw him watching adult videos, it was grown women that looked like me. I'm like, okay, well, I guess you're thinking about me. That's okay. Nothing like that. Not at all. He already knows I don't play that because he knew,
And was there any level of aggression or anything that ever became violent towards yourself? Like, did he ever have any of that energy towards you?
He never put his hands on me like that. No. Okay. He never put his hands on me. He was not physically abusive to me, but he was sexually abusive. I guess that is physically abusive.
Okay.
But when he first, what people have to understand is marital, I don't even know how to say it. Marital R word is never talked about. And it's a real thing. And I think I read it didn't even become illegal until 1970 something. So you have to think he may have grown up. This is a normal part of life. You own your wife. And he would use scripture to manipulate me. Your body is not your own. It belongs to your husband. Wow. And, that type of stuff too. And he would gaslight me. And I would be crying. Like, first it starts off, you think, oh, he's just trying to have sex and I just don't want to. And it's like, I'm telling him no. And, you think he's playing at first. And it's like, no, I'm serious. And then it gets to the point where you're like, he's not stopping. And I'm like fighting him and crying like, no. And it happened 4 times. But I remember the last time something in me said, don't fight and don't cry. Just lay there. He couldn't even finish. He just got off of me and just said, we're getting a divorce. And I realized that he was just attracted to the sadistic part of it.
Hold on, wait. So you used to fight him and cry, and you felt like that was what turned him on? Because
It was for sure. Because the last time it happened, when I just laid there, like I just had to be very quiet. Like I just knew just to lay there like a dead fish, basically. And he just couldn't even finish.
Did you ever think to, file a criminal report when that was happening, or did you just not want to do that because that was your husband?
It didn't even, it's hard. There was so much gaslighting. He'd finish and then be like, babe, why are you crying? I thought you wanted it. And hold you and rub you, and I love you so much. The next day, you and the kids everybody's getting new clothes, and and you're thinking, oh, my husband is a good guy, he's not, and I am his wife. I mean, my body does belong to him, and it says in the Bible. So, what am I complaining about? But the last time, he never did it again because he knew that I knew that what it was about.
So, by the way, were you his first wife?
I didn't even realize how many times that man had been married before I married him. I'm his 4th wife.
Wow.
Did you know that before marriage?
No, his mom slipped up and told me.
So she knew she wasn't supposed to tell you that?
I don't know. He had told me he was married 2 other times, but he said that the women cheated on him and whatever.
Did you find that out to be true? Did you ever speak to his ex-wives?
I spoke to one ex-wife, but she was so reluctant to even talk to me. I don't even know what he put her through, because she was just like, when you called me, it took me back to a bad place. And I was like, oh, she was just didn't share much.
Now, amidst the abuse, you are still together, you're still growing a family, and now you are, if I'm not mistaken, 3 daughters in.
Well, I got pregnant with our first daughter 4 months into the marriage. We had been trying to conceive from the time that we got engaged. The time he put the ring on my finger, it was, all right, we knew we were getting married. So he was so excited.
What I'm curious about is in this, it just seems, this is a lot. It's a lot. I can imagine. Were you happy in your marriage at all?
I was. There was good and bad, but we had a good friendship. And I think that was, one of the main things. We loved to watch movies together and spend time together, and we loved to, do things with the family, and I thought we had a good life together. And it's not like we were not intimate. Like, we were always intimate. We had a normal marriage for the most part, other than him being controlling, very, very controlling. But to me, it was easy to comply because he gave us the world.
How long were you guys married?
For 5 years.
Okay. And so when did you actually get into, because I think as a whole, me and Ryan, we have this, I know starting a YouTube channel is a whole nother situation. Because was that your full-time business as a wife? Like, was that what you were doing full-time, or did you have a job and your YouTube channel?
I stopped working shortly after we got married. Okay,
so you a housewife at this point?
Yeah, he paid all the bills. If I made any money from YouTube, it was all yours. I could get things for the kids. That's a lot of stuff I like to buy.
But yeah, and he provided everything else. I mean, he didn't ask me for anything, and he was an amazing provider. Anything I wanted, he gave me.
You know, I want to address this too, because I think it's important, because you've touched the lives of a lot of ladies. And I'm just curious to know, because again, coming today who you are, even me and myself and Ryan, you know, when life puts you through things, who you are now, 6 months ago, a year ago, 3 years ago, it changes.
Yeah.
Would you say that with your now today mind and who you've grown into and become and how you've seen life play out, is the advice that you gave to women, would you say that was still sound for the most advice that you will stand on to this day? Or do you think there's some things that you'll go?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If you have kids, I honestly think that it's more safe to just try to have a relationship completely outside of your kids, if you can. That might look like you guys living in two different places, but and this is maybe just be my trauma speaking.
Well, were you saying that if you're married to someone and you already have kids, you're saying that women should probably keep their kids 100%?
I'm saying more so if they're dating. You know,
If
when it
they're
gets into
dating.
marriage, that's different. But like dating and living with men and doing that, like you should just not. And I was lucky that I worked from home, but can you imagine, you know, if there's probably so many men just like, wait till she goes to work. And it's just sad.
Man.
I think what makes, you know, your story even more polarizing as it already is, which you recalling these events, is the content that you were putting out online, the proclamation of being a trophy wife. And I think that's what has a lot of people, you know, stirred up all over the world at this point, because millions of people have seen the video.
Well, when I created my platform, I wanted to redefine the term trophy wife into a woman that is the Proverbs 31 woman, which is my favorite verse in the Bible, and I believe that every woman should aspire to be. It's not just about how pretty you are. It's about, are you, being a good mom? What are your values? Are you choosing a man of values? And I thought that I was talking about the right thing. And, I don't think it's bad for a woman to want a successful man. I'm never going to say that a woman should just not care at all, how a man shows up, because the success is honestly a manifestation of different attributes within the man. It's just a manifestation of being a hard worker, persistent, faithful, all the things that success is a fruit of. So I still stand by that. But when it comes to dating as a single mom, luckily he didn't prey on his stepchildren. But what if he did?
You know what I want to do here, it's a blessing to say this, but Dr. Spirit actually did show up here backstage today. So one of the greatest, most world-renowned therapists is actually backstage to join us in this conversation.
3,300 people in the chat. The chat is going bananas right now. Dr. Spirit, thank you for joining us. Where's she at?
Absolutely,
Hey.
Ken Lano.
Hey,
Dr.
guys.
Spirit, what's
Hey.
up with you, Dr. Spirit? Everybody welcome.
Hey.
Drop a Dr. Spirit in the chat real quick.
I like that. Dr. Spirit got that set too. That's looking nice back there.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm working late at the office, so I couldn't come into the studio, but they told me that you needed me, so I'm here.
Absolutely.
Oh, listen, Dr. Spirit, I already know you one of the busiest therapists in the world. All right, so I am absolutely blessed.
It's a long day.
I know every day is probably a long day, but we have Isis Morales here, who has, one of the most viral stories and testimonies right now on the internet, who came in here to join us.
Okay.
I know you like to come in absolutely blank, because Dr. Spirit said, prior, I don't want to know anything. I want to come in with a blank slate. I just want to come in and meet the young lady and talk to her. And the purpose, by the way, because I want you to be able to do what you do with Isis, because this situation is not unique, unfortunately.
Okay.
So I would like you to give her the best counsel that you could. And also just in general, any other ladies that might be in a situation, how they can move forward and advance, who might have experienced something similar. But in general, Dr. Spirit, I would like you to go ahead and take it from here.
Well, you know, one of the things that I really want to ask, and I feel bad that I'm just jumping in because I'm sure you probably already shared this story with the audience, but what is it that you need from me tonight? How can I help you? I'm not familiar with your story. I'm not familiar with the viral moment. I'm not familiar with anything. And I'm meeting you for the first time where you are. And so as you think about where you are and what it is that you're going through in your life right now, how can somebody who does the work that I do, how can I serve you tonight?
I think that, I don't think, my therapist has definitely told me that I have post-traumatic stress disorder from these events. And I've kind of taken on a shape or this feeling of I just never think that I can trust a man again because of, if my own children's father, their biological father, the man that, made them, would do this, then who can I trust? And I told a woman this the other day, and she said, that spirit that's been following you and your family, that generational curse, that spirit that's in charge of that generational curse, it doesn't want you to be married. And it hit home so much to me. And how do I heal? How do I heal?
Well, tell me, how have you decided that because I was in a relationship with one man who did unthinkable, unspeakable things to me, how have you decided that he is a representation of all men? And that somehow that now means that you could never trust another man when you're even sitting with two men being trustworthy tonight, sharing your story, and all the other people who are supporting you in the chat tonight? Tell me about this idea of I can never trust an entire gender ever again.
It's not about that I believe I can't. It's that I just don't know if I can take the chance. That's it. I just feel like I can't take the chance.
How is that different? It's not that I can't. I just can't take the chance. So that says then it's not that I don't trust all men. It's that you don't trust yourself at this point.
Exactly. Because my husband appeared to be such a good dad. And I just would have never, ever, ever expected him to do this. So it may be my own judgment, it may be my own trauma, and I just feel maybe I don't trust myself to ever be with a man again. And people talk about hypervigilance, and I was always a hypervigilant mom. He knew that he had to be the sneakiest of sneaky because I was always watching. So to me, how can I even rationalize what has happened to even think about ever wanting to move on again?
So when you say, I don't trust myself or my judgment ever again, what is it that you're not trusting not to happen?
I'm just scared. I'm just scared. That's all. I'm just scared.
Scared that what?
Someone could appear to be someone that they're not.
And what would happen if that's the case?
Lives could be ruined.
When you say, I'm just scared that lives can be ruined, what is the story that you are telling yourself that causes you to then conclude as a choice, I'll simply never trust again? You're giving these little snapshots, but you're not telling the whole story. And I'm curious about this story.
I think I keep blaming myself and saying, how could I have missed this? How could I have missed this? How could I have missed this? It repeats over and over. How could I have missed this? And it's just a very scary thought that I just don't want to have to ever have again in any other situation.
So when you ask yourself the question, how could I have missed this? Is the fear that as I go forward, I will miss things again?
I just am not interested in wanting to find out. Unfortunately, and I know with my therapist, she said it's going to take time to heal, and I need you to understand that all men are not predators, and you know, this is just your PTSD speaking right now. So you guys are seeing me real and raw, unhealed completely. We're all still healing. We're all in therapy, family therapy, individual therapy. We're doing all the things. But, you know, this is just me right now. This is my truth right now today. And I'm just here sharing it.
And my heart goes out to you and the family. I think that you're doing all of the right things, and it may take a very long time. And I want you to know that healing does not mean that you will ever forget. But the thing that becomes important is that as you are moving forward in your healing, that you don't tell yourself a story that stops you from finding the healing that goes along with this. Because right now, because one person that you were married to did heinous things, now you will block yourself in that space. But you're not telling yourself, I'll never have friends again.
Yeah.
You're not telling yourself that we'll never play with cousins again. You're not telling yourself that I don't have to worry about anybody else anywhere in the world. You have decided that one man who sat in the place of a spouse is somehow in a position that now makes you decide that only a spouse is who I need to be careful of. Only a spouse is who I need to be watchful for. And what I want you to understand is it wasn't about the role that he played, it was about the man that he was. And so as you are in your healing journey, what I want you to be able to learn is about how do you protect yourself and your children and your community from predators.
Well,
Not every man is a predator. Not every woman is a predator.
I do understand, and that has been a part of my healing journey, is reading different books. I ordered Father-Daughter Incest by Judith Lewis Herman, I believe is her name. How to Keep Kids Safe. I forget the author, but you know, I'm trying to figure out how I can use my platform to help women never have to go through something like this. And I recommend that, honestly, women need to have surveillance in general on their children. And like I said, I don't know if that's just my PTSD speaking, but we just have to be very watchful because there are predators and they always look like the good guy most of the time.
Well, and when we talk about predators, what I want people to understand is that predators are not just men. Unfortunately, women can commit these kinds of acts as well.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to exclude that.
No. So right now what I want to do is just kind of educate the audience. You are going through some excellent therapy, so you are finding the healing that you need. And what is important is that we learn as a community how to become stewards and protectors of our children. The reality is that 1 in 4 girls and an estimated 1 in 7 boys will deal with sexual molestation before the age of 18. So the numbers are staggering. The number of people who are in this chat tonight who have experienced some form of sexual abuse before they were 18 years old is staggering. And that means so many people have not been treated for the post-traumatic stress disorder, for the depression, for the anxiety, and all of the other issues that come as a result of child sexual abuse.
Yes.
And when we talk about this, we also have to recognize, as you are hearing this story tonight, that it's not about Chester, the child molester. It's not about the strange van or the stranger in the neighborhood. 90% of victims know their abusers, and they are family members, they are friends, they are individuals who are stewards of children. And until we become very educated about what it means for predators to seek out and get access to their prey and what makes people have the potential to be victims, we will not know how to adequately protect our children nor ourselves. And that is the takeaway that I really want everybody to understand tonight.
Thank you.
There you have it. Dr. Spirit, I appreciate you for coming up here in such absolute short notice.
Yes. Thank you.
And just talking, to our sister here, because I mean, this is a touchy situation. I wanted, obviously, we asking questions, and we're getting her story, her testimony, but I wanted somebody to be able to give her some insight. Especially, I mean, it's babies involved, in this situation, families involved. In fact, the world is involved, at this point.
Well, and I want to know if you all have questions. One of the populations that I have worked with over the years have been convicted sex offenders. And so I have had an inside understanding in the minds of individuals who have behaved in such ways. And I'm curious whether it is this young lady that you guys are speaking with tonight, or if it's members in your chat who may have had questions about how do they protect themselves, how do they protect their communities, what is it that people need to know in order for us to not only heal each other, but in order to make sure that there are no more victims among those that we love.
Yes. Please share with us any knowledge that you have is helpful, not only to myself, but to everyone.
And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to drop the link in the chat so we can come up, so the audience can come up and join Dr. Spirit up here.
Absolutely, y'all. So go ahead. It's about that time. Dr. Spirit, we got your time tonight. I know it's nice and late. You going to rock with us here tonight?
I'm going to rock with you for a few minutes. I'll give you a good 20, 30 minutes. Come on.
There you go. We got about a good 20, 30. So y'all get some free therapy. I think Dr. Spirit is like 3 years back rolled right now if you're trying to get some real therapy from Dr. Spirit.
We'll take it. Thank
so
you,
we're going to go ahead and we'll get a light 30 minutes in. So Ryan is dropping the link in the chat. And what we're going to do is you guys can head backstage when you want to join, and we'll bring you guys right on up. All right.
And I think it's quite a bit we can speak about. And I know, you even, getting into the relationship with your husband, it was fairly quickly,
Mm-hmm.
and it was something that she was really, really looking forward to.
Yeah.
And, it was so many messages that I passed from our family, some good, some not so good. And then the messages that I passed through media. I think a lot of us can go out and look for love, and we don't always find, the fairy tale, picture and kind of how things are set up. So I think it's just so much to learn from your story. So guys, please call in. I'm dropping the link in the chat now. We got the awesome, the honorable, the most lit Dr. Spirit joining us, and she's ready to drop a ton of game on y'all. So please call in, and we're gonna bring you up one by one.
Absolutely, Lano. So we got some people backstage that we could go ahead and start rolling up. And please, by the way, if you're backstage, put your cameras on, guys.
Yes.
We will not let you up if your cameras are not on. So put your cameras on, and we'll have you come up. We just ask that you guys be respectful in this time so we can conduct a productive conversation. But we're going to let the people come up now. Who we got backstage, Lano?
We got Darwin backstage.
Okay, go ahead and bring my brother up. Darwin, what's up with you, brother? Brother, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
What's up with you, brother? If you can't, I got your name. Can you give me your age and your location?
Age is 38, Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia. What's up with
ATL
here? So what's your question for us tonight, Darwin?
My question is, I noticed the woman said she saw the signs. So if you see the signs before your kids come into a picture, how much is this self-inflicted? Me looking from that.
I said I didn't see the signs until after we were married already, so we were already invested as a family at that point.
What I'm hearing is that your kids, you had kids after you got married, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. So you said in the beginning of the marriage, I think in another video or maybe even a day, you said in the beginning of your marriage, he was pretty much sexually violating you. So what I'm seeing is that you knew that this man was offensive or abusive, but then you went on ahead and had kids with him. So that means that, for me, you put your kids in danger.
I think that's the narrative that you want to put on the situation, but that's not the reality of what it was. And like I said, I was very heavily manipulated by scripture. He, would use it. He would gaslight me, and after I hadn't even I don't even know if I was pregnant yet after the last time it happened. So, in every other way, he was a good man. I didn't think that it was worth throwing my family away, or the family that we were trying to create, because he had done those things. And unfortunately, I didn't realize that would mean that he would go on to abuse his own children. I don't know how someone would correlate the two. But that's just my opinion.
Now, Darwin, I want you to hold tight, because I think that was a valid concern. I think a lot of men feel that way. I mean, you could read through the comments of the video that went viral. A lot of men have this perception of what they think victimhood should look like. So, Dr. Spirit, I want to get your help here, because for the people who are posing this type of question, hey, if you've already experienced this abuse, or you've already experienced some of these negative things, how could you continue to move forward in a relationship? Dr. Spirit, could you give us some context on why someone who has been victimized may continue to continue with the relationship?
Because oftentimes a victim believes that it's something that is unique to them. They don't believe that the person that they love would consider doing more heinous things. Oftentimes they think that that's something that's specific to their relationship. So again, I don't know the story here, I don't know the backstory. But when we're talking about a victim of abuse, they don't necessarily think if I have children with someone, they will abuse someone too. And I want you to remember this, because it's very easy to sit back and judge somebody when you have a healthy mind in a space that is absent of trauma. When you are caught in a cycle, the way that you see things, the way that you feel about things, the way that your brain operates is very different. So that may be also why you're hearing how she was perceiving relationships before she had therapeutic support and how she's perceiving those things now. Mm-hmm. And so I just want you guys to be very careful. It is very hard to understand what victims go through if you have never been a victim yourself. But one of the things that most victims will tell you on the other side of healing is that nobody is judging or critiquing them more, and nobody is suffering more than the victims who are going through the experience.
Well,
so
the reason
asking questions are important, but asking them from a place of objectivity is even more important.
Well, the reason
and Darwin, we're gonna let you close out here so we can get to the other callers. But go ahead, brother.
The reason why I frame my question like that is because she believes in what I believe in. I believe in God. So she gave me a way to hold her accountable when she start saying God this and God that. And if you read the word, you would know that sexual immorality or physical abuse or anything like that is pretty much grounds for divorce. And that supersedes any type of gaslighting or emotional manipulation. If she's so grounded in the word and scripture, that actually supersedes any of the other offenses this man put towards her. And that's the reason why I framed my question like that. Because if we're gonna call ourselves spiritually driven and backed by biblical principles, started as my son in background, we have to be unwavering. We have to be unwavering. And that's the only reason why I framed my question like that. But my sorrows goes out to you. I hope that you can heal from this. And I appreciate you, Dr. Spirit, for talking to the lady.
I appreciate you as well. And please understand, for everybody that may be in the chat tonight, I want you to understand that it's not about defending anybody. It's not about debating anybody. The only thing that I want to do is offer as much clarity as possible, because I want us all to be our best selves. And I wish that more pastors had Darwin's perspective. I wish that more church members had that perspective that says be unwavering in support of victims, because most folks who are working with church folks who are being wounded by their partners, who are being wounded by their spouses, who are being wounded by family members, if we were unwavering in abuse and we protected and stood up for one another, we wouldn't have victims stand in situations trying to take it to prayer closets, praying it away, acting like it doesn't matter, being ashamed, and keeping that trauma a secret. So here for healthy, however we have to find it.
Absolutely.
And
Thanks so much, Darwin, for joining
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. Let's get the next one up here. We got a young lady coming up here. What's her name? Ayana, what's up with you, sister? How you doing?
Well, this is like such a sad story, just in general. So I first wanted to say I'm so sorry to Isis that you even had this experience. I wouldn't wish this type of thing on anybody. My question is, in hindsight, is there any like small signs that now seem like they were a bigger thing? Like, is there anything that you can think back on possibly that maybe now you're like, oh my gosh, that might have been a signal that this person was an evil monster?
The signs were very, very small and covert, to be honest. When I think back little things, sometimes my daughter, it appeared that her and my husband, or both of my daughters and my husband, had a very good relationship. But sometimes she would come when we were sitting together and she would say, "Mommy, I love you the most." And she would only say it when he was around. So sometimes little signs like that, it's not always a red flag at the time, but now in hindsight, I'm like, was she just trying to tell me that she didn't feel safe around him?
Wow. Now, Dr. Spirit, I do want you to chime in on this, because Isis did mention about her spouse being controlling as well. So what are some things that the ladies and also guys should look for when it comes to identifying if a partner may eventually become controlling or manipulative?
Well, there's a difference between controlling and manipulative and sexual abuse. So I want us to be very clear on that.
Got you.
And so when we're talking about how do we protect children from sexual abuse, one of the things that we have to let them know is that we are unwavering in our protection of them. And as much as we love our spouses, their mommies or their daddies, we don't love anybody and won't protect anybody more than we will protect them.
Amen.
And if they ever have something to tell us, we will believe them.
Amen.
So it's important for us to have those kinds of conversations with our children. It's important for us to use the right language about their body parts and about privacy. And especially to your point, Ryan, when you're talking about control, you want to make sure that children know that nobody has control over their bodies except for them. So not mommy, not daddy, and no one has the right to touch your penis. We don't call it a pecker or a Johnny or a Johnson, we call it a penis. We don't call a vagina a pocketbook or cookies or cupcake or anything else fun. We call it a vagina. We talk about breasts. We talk about having privacy and being able to cover up. We talk about you being able to take care of your private areas, and that if anybody touches you in ways that makes you feel uncomfortable, you can come and talk to me about it, and I will believe you, and no one will be in trouble in ways that will hurt you. And so we have to be emphatic about those conversations. We have to periodically ask our children, has anyone said anything to you that has made you feel uncomfortable? Has anybody asked you to keep secrets from mommy or from daddy and not tell us? Has anybody said that they want to do things to you or have done things to you and they tell you that if you tell, they will hurt me or they will hurt daddy? We have to learn how to be able to ask the right questions, because predators not only know how to scare our children, how to isolate our children, but also they know how to make our children have affection and care and regard for them. So even though they may feel uncomfortable, they may feel more uncomfortable telling on that individual. And so that's why we have to learn how to take care of our children and let them know that nobody has the right to make them feel uncomfortable or do things to them that are outside of your purview as their parent.
One thing I do want to say, Dr. Spirit, is that these type of conversations are conversations I have with all of my kids, just as a woman who has been a survivor of CSA. And I did use the language, mommy and daddy. Only mommy and daddy can clean you, only mommy and daddy. But now in hindsight, I just wish I would have said mommy. And that's the sad thing. And I know that that's not going to be every woman's story, thank God, but
I think something else that's very important that we talk about tonight is that you talk about healing and mentioning being a survivor of CSA. It is so important that we recognize that when we are dealing with sexual abuse, no matter what age we experienced it at, it increases our risk for being abused in sexual ways and physical ways and emotional ways as we get older. So I want to make people aware of that tonight, because if there is anyone who is a victim of any form of abuse, especially in their childhood, who is having relationship problems over and over and over, choosing narcissistic partners, choosing people who abuse them in relationships over and over, please recognize that that may be a function of your illness needing treatment so that you can change that cycle of abuse. Okay, it's very important, and I'm glad that you shared that.
Thank you for that, Dr. Spirit. And thank you so much, Ayana, for that question. Was that all you had, sister?
Okay, just one more thing. I'll make it fast. I just also wanted to say, like, I guess like I don't want to use the word like thank you, but like a thank you to ISIS for listening to your children, because there are a lot of parents, unfortunately, we like to think that parents are protectors and things, but not all parents are like that. So just thank you to you for listening to your daughters and taking action rather than just taking the lifestyle and letting them continue to be in that experience. And I know some people are like, why are you putting it out there? But I feel like part of the problem is we don't talk about it enough. It's like what stays in the house happens in the house and don't talk about it. But is that to protect the predators? Is that enabling the people that are hurting our children? So I just hope you continue sharing your story, and because you are making a difference in people's lives, and people will say what they want to say, but only you know what's right for your family and your children. And as soon as you heard something, you did something and you acted. And I just think that that's a testament to you as a person. So that's all I wanted to say.
well, I appreciate your thank you, but honestly, to me, what other decision would a good mother make? I come from a line of fierce protective women, unfortunately, that have had to be victims as well. But my mother believed me. Her mother believed her. There's no other way to do it. In my opinion, shame on any mother that would discount such a serious allegation. Shame.
Ayana, thank you so much for coming up here, sweetheart. Okay, we're going to go ahead and bring the next caller. I'm going to bring a couple more callers up here. You know, as we got Dr. Spirit here live with us. Isis Morales here is also joining us. The next caller we have here, it looks like we have Brianna on the stage here. Welcome, Brianna, the Hardly Initiated. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing good. How are you all?
We doing
I'm
good,
blessed.
Brianna.
I'm blessed. Give me your age and your location.
So I'm 23, and right now I'm in Michigan.
23 years old.
Wow.
There you go.
Young initiate.
Got the young bull on. What's your question?
So my question, I guess, would be with the platform of Me Too and the significance of really platforming your experience of like grave trauma, especially in the midst of healing with what you seem to experience, which is PTSD. And then also just coming to terms with the fact that you're probably also simultaneously dealing with a case. My question would be, what are the psychological implications of platforming your experience? How do you navigate the backlash that comes with sharing your experience? Because like even reading the chat, like it's been like typed before it even like got live. So my thing is like, how do you steward that type of platform in a way that's going to bring you peace ultimately?
My peace comes from God, because he's the one that's leading my steps, and that's been my prayer every day. God, lead my steps. And I felt like God wouldn't let me move forward in life until I spoke my truth, because it's just been swept under the rug for so long, you know, generationally. And this isn't something that's just affecting my own family. This is affecting more families than we know. And it was important to share, especially in the wake of the Menendez brothers case and just all that's going on in the world with, you know, all these predators being exposed. And Cat Williams was very prophetic when he said that this is the year. Time is up. This is the year. And I knew I had to say something.
So I want to, you know, it's
Great question, Brianna.
Yeah, great question, Brianna. Really, really great question, because this is a unique situation, Dr. Spirit. You know, this ISIS has, put out a testimony video that got 2.5 million views, something around at this point. So, I mean, she's being inundated, I can imagine, with probably emails, comments, DMs,
phone calls, everything.
Phone calls.
People
family,
just,
people from elementary school, anybody.
Oh my gosh, it's just been crazy.
And I can imagine it's all types of emotions, right? You got the people who are, reaching out with love and support, and you got the other people who are pissed off, who are probably, calling you a liar, telling you that all these different things are happening.
Where's the accountability? So everything.
Yeah.
100%. So, I mean, that's a unique situation, Dr. Spirit, to kind of be dealing with that whirlwind, of other people being involved in your business at this point, and you're a content creator. So the thing about it is that is your job, because you put them in your business as a coach because you were really helping these ladies. So you almost had a responsibility to tell them these other things and involve them in your advancement. But this is a different level of trauma, and just energy even coming your way at this point. Dr. Spirit, I mean, what do you say to somebody going through something like that in that type of space?
Well, as I'm listening to you guys, I'm learning more and more. And for me, it's concerning, because it's very hard to help people when you are experiencing so much trauma. And so as you are out here telling your story in a way that you are still unpacking it, in a way that you're still trying to process it in therapy, in a way that you're still trying to make sense of it and heal it, I don't know what type of coaching that you do, and I don't know how you are able to navigate actual healing while experiencing trauma on trauma. I mean, that tells me a little bit maybe more about your presentation, because I can hear it. It sounds like you're choking back tears constantly. But then your face and your affect doesn't show me, and maybe it's, I don't have my glasses on, so, I can't
I'm
see.
trying to keep it together.
So there's like so many different things that are happening that I would just say, at the end of the day, you don't owe anybody anything except for you and your children. So while I think that it's wonderful that you are wanting to platform the story and give the story voice, I want you to recognize that there are millions of advocates around the world who are already doing the work around sexual violence. I want you to know that there are many folks who are telling the stories and serving to protect individuals and to sound the alarm about sexual abuse, about spousal rape, about sexual assault. And you don't have to use your platform, and you don't have to use your trauma in order to be able to stand in the gap for individuals if you know you still need to do your own work. And I want you to be very, very careful, because you will traumatize yourself in new ways, exposing yourself at a point in time when you are absolutely raw, when you don't have the answers, where you don't have the understanding, where you can't even make sense of it. So to put yourself out here, I don't know if it's a form of therapy for you. I don't know if you're just part of the generation where everybody says, look at my trauma, and everybody, we can just go through it together, and that helps me heal.
It's not that.
I'm not sure what it is.
It's not that at all.
But what I would say is, think about your wellness first. Think about your care first. And remember, you have plenty of time to be able to share your story and your healing and be effective with the world. But you have to take care of you first.
And what I want to say is, I haven't uploaded any content since that video, and I have been taking care of myself and my children. That has been my main priority. But what I want people to really take from this, and why I really did this, is to be concerned about the time in between. And when I say the time in between the abuse happens and someone says something about it and tells the world or tells the family members, how many other children could be at stake in the time in between, even the 6 weeks in between, that I decided to share that story from the time that the abuse occurred. God would not let me move forward until I shared that story, because there's a good chance this man could be around kids. I mean, people were pulling his dating profiles. He was looking for the next whoever. It's the time in between that the children are being hurt, when people don't want to say anything. So I feel like I've had no other choice but to share this testimony, because it's not about me. God is just using me. It's not about me. It's never been about me. It's about everybody. It's about the fact that this is happening at an alarming rate. No one's talking about, I can't say no one's talking about it, but it's just not being pushed the way that it needs to, that children need to be protected more, and that you just have to really be aware. You know, you can't just be making certain decisions. It's just,
Isis, I'm curious, since you told your story, have any other alleged victims come forward?
not that I've seen, no. But honestly, people know to keep their kids away from him, and that's good enough for me. That's good enough for me.
The reason why I'm asking, just so you all know and just so the audience knows, is that usually when we're talking about sexual predators, by the time a sexual predator is caught, they have often had many, many victims prior to. And so as we do sexual social histories, we really get into the cycle of abuse. There usually are decades worth of victims. So if he was just caught now, I would not be surprised. I was asking the question because I would not be surprised if other victims started to come forth.
I haven't
That is
seen
something
anything.
that's very common in situations like this.
Wow.
Wow.
But you know what? Victims are often shamed. And that, like, yeah, I don't know if you all remember even when Cassie came forward about how things Diddy was doing, and people said, oh, she's a liar. It took the video coming out for people to say, oh, well, maybe he was abusive. Maybe. People always victim shame. No one wants to come and
to
talk
that-
about this stuff.
And to that point, I'm glad you made the point, because as soon as that happened, as you said, for years, listen to the trail of abuse that we're hearing in that story over decades. That's an excellent example of what we're talking about in alleged victims, because usually sexual abuse and these kinds of behaviors begin in childhood. Individuals test their limits. They don't just become full-blown, very aggressive, very cunning, conniving predators. They learn how to be that over time. They begin oftentimes with siblings or with cousins who are close in age, or with their younger siblings, friends when they have sleepovers. They do that with girlfriends in early adolescence. It is a progression that happens. And so I want everybody to recognize that. It's not just for your story, Isis, but it's for people who are sitting at home thinking, I'm the only person that person tried this with. I'm the only person that was molested in my family. And as you talk about that intergenerational trauma, I hear you say that your mom suffered, that your grandmother suffered. So what we know is that there is a cycle of abuse, there is a cycle of victimhood, there is a cycle of behavior that unfortunately they did not get the help. They were not able to cover each other and ultimately then cover you. And so unfortunately now you and your children hopefully will be those legacy breakers, so that your children's children don't suffer a similar fate.
I
So
think
that
that
we're
it's
not dealing
deeper.
with 5 generations.
It's deeper than mental health. This is a spirit. This is a generational curse. This is deeper than therapy. Only God can fix
Wow.
this.
Well, I will have to leave you to your belief system. If that's the case, then that means that those who are sexual abusers will not be able to be helped.
That's
will
not what
be
I'm
able
saying.
to
I
be
said
healed.
that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that in addition to that, you know, your faith
Oh,
has
okay,
to
in
be a part.
addition to-
That's I'm
in
an
addition
advocate of therapy. I'm in therapy. I'm a big advocate of therapy. But what I'm saying is, for the decisions that my parents made to be chalked up to the fact that they may have not gotten help, I think that it is even deeper than that. I think that it's truly spiritual warfare that is going on, and that's a big part of this.
Well, I'm hoping that for everybody out there, whether you are someone who has been abused, whether you are someone who struggles with feelings or thoughts that you struggle with around attraction to younger individuals, around power and control, around sexual assault, I want you to recognize that there is help available no matter where you sit on the spectrum. If you know that you have struggles that you need help with, there are people who want to help you. Whether you utilize scripture and the word and you seek out Christian therapists who can help you with that, or whether you look for individuals who are Muslim, who are Buddhist, who are Baptist, who are atheist, who are agnostic, wherever you need to get your healing from, I want you to know that there are people out here who can and who want to help you, and who will not judge you, but who will help you try to get to a place where you understand yourself and that you can be the best version of yourself.
Thank you so much, Dr. Spirit and Brianna, for that great question. And I want to be clear here. I see this question just happening in the chat very often, and I want to just address it just so you can update the people as well.
Okay.
Because most people are very upset when they hear these kind of crimes, and they're saying like, yo, why is he just not in jail?
That's
Like,
what I
that's the
call
number
and
thing they
ask.
say.
The first few weeks I was calling and asking that, harassing them. Why is he not in jail? He's walking around free. He's a predator. He's a pedophile. He could be around kids. Why have you not arrested them? They said, we're very reluctant to charge these crimes.
Okay.
We have to do an investigation first. It could take months. There's it's going on the back end, so there's a complaint number, but not an official case number that the public can see. But they're investigating it. They've been investigating it from the day that I stepped into that hospital. If people are not familiar with how the system works, that's how it works. These are mandated reporters. As soon as you go to a hospital, police are involved immediately. The investigation started immediately. The detective came to the hospital with Child Protective Services. They have all been involved in this case. So all the steps have been taken. Therapy has been started, all the things. And to clear the record, I know there's a lot of people saying that I'm doing this in retaliation to him filing for divorce. He filed for divorce 3 days after. 3 days after the investigation started, and I left him and took the kids. That was all he could do to try to get the kids back, was file for divorce. To get some type of custody.
Understood.
No, well, before Dr. Spirit goes, because I actually had a question for Dr. Spirit, because I
No,
saw this.
I don't want Dr. Who said Dr. Spirit going?
Oh, okay, no, okay, my bad.
What is it? Well, yeah, we can let. I want to bring up.
Brian said he was cutting me loose.
I want to have.
That was
I'm gonna have. We're gonna have
your
one more.
question.
We're gonna have one more caller come up before we're gonna end the hotline. Though we're gonna have one more caller come up. But go ahead.
Well, because I'm reading this super chat. Shout out to High Tolerance, says 2 times girl dad here. Where's the accountability having all these men in her kid's orbit? At least the boy hiding under the bed from his mama with the switch owned up. Mama, I'm gonna clean up my room and put my toys up. I'm not sure what he got going on the end of that message. Anyway, it's really the first part of the message, Dr. Spirit, because it's the where the accountability is at. And I myself is actually a victim of sexual assault as a youth. And when I have my thoughts about it, and I often ask myself when I think about it, well, why would my mom put me in a situation with this person? And then I try to create in my head all of these things that I'm gonna do when I have kids and the type of people my kids are gonna be around. And when I come to the conclusion, it's really around nobody because I'm like, I keep creating more and more rules about who's gonna be around my kids, and then my standard gets so high. I'm like, well, damn, I guess I'm gonna be the only person around my kid. But I know that parents can't actually do that. So my question is, where does the accountability, where does it come in at when a parent has her, or her or his kids around different adults? How much is a parent to be held accountable if something does happen?
Well, and I want you to know that it's not just around adults. I want you to know that you have to be careful with other children. You have to be careful with the older children who are in the house as well. And you have to be careful about the history of the children that your children are being left in the care of, or who they are playing with. Because children who have been sexually abused are much more likely to turn around and abuse other children, even children their age. That's why you hear a lot of parents nowadays say, I don't care, my kids don't have sleepovers. They don't go over to other people's houses. But what we also have to learn is predators need to be around the thing that they are attracted to, and they need to have the space to be alone with them. So what we really want to talk about is how do we not leave children alone with other people? We don't leave our children alone with their coaches so that the coach is just driving the kid home from football practice or baseball practice and have the kid sitting in the front seat next to them. We don't allow the children to go to the bathroom and have the adults inside of the bathroom with them. And I want you to know that there are organizations out here who train communities on how to protect their children and how to bolster their community and to identify hot spots in homes, in churches, in schools, all over the place in order to keep children safe. I can tell you, for example, that I have been for many years a child abuse prevention facilitator with Darkness to Light, which is a child sexual abuse agency that teaches community members how do we protect our children? How do we arm parents? How do we arm adults? How do we arm children with the knowledge that they need in order to make sure that no one has to become a victim of child sexual abuse? And so what we have to do is we have to recognize how common it is. We have to not be scared of the conversation. And the reality is, if you are an individual who has suffered, please recognize that it makes it very difficult for you to stand in the gap when no one stood in the gap for you. So many individuals, unfortunately, become paralyzed with fear, paralyzed with denial. They are revisiting their own trauma when they see signs that children, especially their own children, may be being abused by someone that they love. Too many people turn a blind eye. And it's very easy for us to sit back and judge. But to somebody's point, there was somebody that called in a few minutes ago to talk about how this looks. Many people are still protecting abusers. You know that the cousin or the uncle abused people, and they're still invited to the Christmas parties. They're still invited to the family reunions. Everybody is still laughing and joking, and they know that there is that one person who says, I will not come to the house when so-and-so is there because you all know what he did to me. And most people are so paralyzed, they don't know what to do, and they will turn and isolate the victim and rally around the same person who perpetrated the acts because they don't want to stand up and deal with it in their family. So we have to get better, we have to become more educated, and we have to be willing to have these very hard conversations.
What I do want to ask Dr. Spirit, and I take full accountability for bringing men around my children. In hindsight, I wish I would have just made different decisions to where I'd never put myself in a situation to even have to, I do wish I would have made better decisions. But being a young mom, I mean, I made mistakes. I take accountability for that.
Is that it started even before that in your storyline. It wasn't about, if it would have been as simple enough as protecting my children from some men, then that would have been something that you would have done 100% of the time because you love your children. This is why it is so important for us to learn how our traumas are showing up in our adult lives, because the things that we were exposed to in our childhoods, the ways that we were loved and not loved properly, lead us to make decisions based upon trauma and familiarity of trauma. And so what I just encourage everybody to do is learn from a cautionary tale. Whether you think that you can relate to Isis's story or not, we all have trauma. We all have wounds. We all have things that are causing us to show up in our lives in a place where we are not fully functional. And so let this be a cautionary tale that says, how can I heal myself so that I don't have blind spots that will not only hurt me, but hurt people that I love? That is the real takeaway here. Because until we heal, we are literally passing on a legacy that creates more trauma, no matter what that looks like, sexual or otherwise. That's the real takeaway.
Thank you very much, Dr. Spirit. We actually got one more call I want to get backstage. I think we got a brother backstage, right, Lano?
Yep, we got Chandler backstage.
We got my brother Chandler backstage. Let's go ahead and bring my brother here. What's up, Chandler? How you doing, brother? You are on mute. Unmute yourself real quick, Chandler, so we can make sure we can hear you, brother.
Damn, I got that Christmas sweater on, man. You ready for the holiday, man?
Brother, looking like the 25th. What's up?
We sure can.
Yeah, we can hear you, brother. Give me your age and your location.
Okay. Kind of I'm anonymous, and that's not my name. I'm using somebody else's Zoom right now. Sorry, but like really quick question.
Hold on, wait. You say your age and location is anonymous?
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
I'm
shit.
sorry. Is that a problem?
Yeah.
I mean,
Nobody in the history.
Let that man stay anonymous. He trying to stay out of trouble. Let him stay
okay,
right
okay,
where he is.
Dr. Spirit said you're trying to stay out of trouble. Let's go ahead and let him rock. Then go ahead. What's your question, brother?
It plays into the social media aspect. I think what happened to your children is absolutely horrible, and I think to get on such a large platform and share your story is difficult. I don't know that I could comprehend how difficult it is to share this particular story. Yeah. But how do you reconcile sharing that story as it is your story, but it's also your children's story? So now 2.4 million or however many other people see that will now know that that happened to them at the hands of their father or stepfather. How difficult is that?
It's very difficult, and it's actually something that I struggled with back and forth before I even recorded the video, because I didn't want to put my children's trauma out there for everybody. But honestly, I felt God gave me no other choice. Like I keep saying, this isn't about just us. It's not about just us. It had to be said.
There you go, Sean. I mean, it seems like you're gonna be brief and brilliant on that one. It's really
I don't know
no
what
other
else to
explanation.
say. That's
Yeah.
all it is. This isn't about views. It's not about anything other than I thought that maybe, YouTube is my only source of income. I was like, maybe I will help some of my community in updating them just to be aware that this could happen. I had no idea that this would go viral to this extent. I had a small YouTube channel. I still do. I never expected all this to happen, but God kept saying, you need to tell. You need to tell the truth. Because I glorified this man in public. I made it seem like it was a fairy tale, and in a way it was. It seemed like it was. But it wasn't. It wasn't.
And Dr. Spirit, just to give you an idea, because I know you are really in the dark about the situation, the purpose of ISIS's YouTube channel was to help ladies find a husband.
Find love within a year.
Absolutely. Which is obviously the story line that she had herself. And that was what most of the content was about, which is, again, why she is now communicating, why she felt compelled to communicate that it wasn't what you said it was.
Well, there was things going on that I wasn't even aware of that this man was doing.
Yeah.
He played
so
everyone
you chose
around me. Everyone around me was shocked. They couldn't believe that he would do such a thing. He seemed like such a good dad, the perfect provider. People looked at us like, oh, they're such a beautiful family. Everywhere we went, that's all we heard. What a beautiful family. I would never have expected this man to do this. And in my research, I've realized that this is one of the most common forms of sexual abuse is fathers, unfortunately. And people are not talking about it because of the shame. It's so embarrassing, and I hate that I, have had to expose what have happened to my children, but I'm just praying that even if it helps one person, it was worth it.
There you go, Chandler. Thank you so much for your question, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. You have a good night. Man, first of all, man, Dr. Spirit, I thank you so much for coming up on here and joining us here tonight. Obviously, it would have went so far, with me and Ryan getting the testimony, but we wanted to give the people something practical, that they can use and apply, especially, for other people that's watching this that have experienced this. Because if you've experienced this is always a very triggering conversation. There's some people that have buried, this in their hearts and their minds, and this might have really brought it back to the surface, and that's why we wanted to make sure we had you on hand. But just after hearing this entire conversation, after your, obviously this is a very brief assessment, just give me some of your final thoughts as we close out the show, and you really just address ISIS and the people that might just want to hear your words.
Well, ISIS, you're not going to take any suggestions that I have, but you are a part of the internet culture. You are a part of this is therapeutic for you. But I would say, just please consider fading to black for just a little while, to give yourself time and your children time to heal outside of the public eye. If God called you to tell your story, to expose the truth, then hallelujah for
That's
your
all I
obedience.
answered to.
You have done
That's all
your
I answered
part.
to.
And now, perhaps, the time has come. If you have truly done your part, then go and heal and allow yourself to focus on you and your children now, and to come up with a plan for what you do before this man and now after this man, because he will be a part of you all's story for a lifetime. I would also say to anyone else who is out there, if you have found yourself triggered tonight, if you recognize that ISIS is telling your story, if you recognize that your story has yet to be told, get into somebody's chair. Let healing be possible for you. If you recognize that you are a person who at any point in your past or in your present has struggled with sexual feelings that you don't feel like are in your control, that don't feel the healthiest for you, whether it is around attraction to children, whether it is around power and control or feelings of inadequacy or insecurity that cause you to show up in sexual ways that you are not proud of, recognize that healing is possible, and recognize that there are places that can help you understand you without judgment and help you get to a place where you feel more whole and satisfied and secure. And so what I would say is, no matter where you stand on this, recognize that at the end of the day, you have to be responsible for you and be responsible for the children who are entrusted in your care. Educate yourself, know how to protect children, don't be afraid to have the conversations, and don't be afraid to enlist people like us to help you.
Wow.
There we go. Thank you so much, Dr. Spirit, again for coming up on
My
here and
pleasure.
joining us. It's always a
Thank you.
pleasure to have you here on Hardly Initiated. We love you. Go get you some sleep, because I know you need some after the kind of days
Long day.
that you be having over
Absolutely.
there. All right. So thank
Love
you
you
guys.
guys.
Love you too, Dr. Spirit.
Everybody drop a love in the chat for Dr. Spirit. You know, and man, Isis, I thank you as well, you
Right.
know, for coming up here, because I just know this took a lot. You know, I know this is heavy. I know this is scary. It's a lot of people in the chat. It's a lot of people in your comments. It's a lot of people, you know, giving their 2 cents in your life, you know,
Right.
on your children's life, on your entire family's life, you know, at this point. So just curious. I mean, is there anything that, you know, you want to say to the people before we go ahead and let you go?
I did this for the victims. And when I saw the victims in my comments that said my mom never believed me, even if it was just one comment, but it was so many, I knew I did the right thing. I knew putting the video out was the right thing. God has shown me over and over that this has been the right thing. And for everybody who wants to say, I need to take a break, please write me a check for me to take a break from taking care of my children. Please do. That's what I have to say about that. Okay? So I'm going to continue to show up. I'm going to continue to speak my truth. I'm going to continue to be obedient, because obedience is better than sacrifice. And I'm going to continue to do what I am called to do, regardless of how anybody feels about it, because God is using me and I'm just here to do what he tells me to do. I'm going to continue to do so.
Is it you right now? Are you pretty much do you have full custody of your 5 babies?
Yes, through the protective order, I do. Yes.
Okay. So I can imagine that's heavy on you right now.
Yes. Yes.
Just responsibility and financially.
Oh my gosh, we've been struggling so bad. This man is not paying any type of support on time. He sends some of it. I made maybe $100 a month from YouTube when we broke up. I had nothing. I still am fighting every day. Even GoFundMe. I don't know what's wrong with them. They won't even let me get the money out. I don't know if people have been reporting it or being weird. And the devil has been working so hard, people just don't know. And it's because God is using me. God wants me to tell this story. And the enemy gets mad every single time. And it's worth it.
Well,
I really appreciate you.
No, it really, and if you and listen, I don't know where you stand, but for all my people in support, I want you to go ahead and support the sister, because obviously, man, it's 5 babies she's taking care of at this point. So go ahead, Lionel, go ahead, pull up the Cash App. I think you've already had it on your channel. I think people already been supporting on GoFundMe, but Cash App here is how we gonna do it. That's the wrong one. Wrong one. Pull up the segment header. That's ours.
Yeah.
But just pull up.
Hit ours too. Hit both of them.
That's funny, but yeah, this is how you take care of ISIS here on the channel. That's on the screen here when you want to go ahead and take care of this sister here.
Yeah.
And again, I just appreciate you for coming out here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having the courage to come, share your story. And I know a lot of people have different feedback, but guys, we study YouTube, and it is absolutely no way that she would have been able to know that with her current subscribership that video would get millions and millions of views. So it's not for the money. It wasn't for the views. It was literally impossible to say that. You even have people in the comments like, listen, the algorithm must be in your favor because this thing is
God. It's not. It's God.
Yeah. Wow.
It's not. I saw it. People say God wanted everyone to see this video. God is bigger than the algorithm. My God is bigger than the algorithm.
God is it.
So everybody it seems like you're more mad that the video went viral than anything. Because if it got 2 views, you wouldn't be talking about why are you on here,
Right.
No, that's perspective.
Yeah, and again, shout out to you. Thank you so much for joining us. And guys, hit the sub button because this is what helps us to command such a powerful testimonies and amazing guests. So please hit that subscribe button and make sure you hit the like button as well. Shout out to Dr. Spirit again, and shout out to all the initiates who joined us this evening for the chat and everybody who joined the hotline live. And thank you for being respectful. Thank you for asking those, because really, to be honest, those 4 to 5 questions, I think if there was any questions we did not ask, it was literally the questions that were asked by
came from the community. And y'all came in to ask some hard questions, so that's really what it's about. That's why we have the hotline, so we can really bring the community in, all the initiates in. So shout out to everybody that's a member of the channel that continues to provide. Shout out to everybody that, provides to us as well, to our Cash App, our PayPal, every super chat. Again, it is a tremendous impact to the growth of our channel. So we really appreciate you guys. And I just want you to know too, I think it's important to say it's a disclaimer right now because this is still an open case.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
This is still an open case. So first of all, it's bold. We're going
It's
to have
bold,
this conversation in the middle of an open case. So I appreciate
It's
you.
true.
There's no, just a disclaimer, because first of all, no more lawsuits for Hardly Initiated. This is not the admission of guilt. So please listen. Don't slap no case on Hardly Initiated because we already got enough attorney fees. But I'm hoping this is a topic. Sexual assault is a topic that we don't really touch as a platform. And it's something that is so common that we just randomly hear in people's testimonies on other subjects. So this is about as deep as we ever got on it. And I hope that somebody in here was able to get some game on top of getting your testimony here. So we love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back next Monday. We have an incredible lineup coming up next Monday for you guys.
Thanks.
We are not slowing down. We are just heating up. We're going to continue to challenge you, bring you some of the most interesting conversations that you are going to find, and just help us all level up and get to the next level, guys. And y'all already know how we do it. Hardly Initiated. We are out.